I spoke with over 100 wholesalers. Here's what the top operators do differently. So what we did is we first started with our own SM3 clients, and we separated the wholesalers into two different groups. Group one, the big wholesalers, folks who had made over $1 million in profit over the last 12 months. They were usually doing between $2.5 and $5 million in total revenue. And then we compared it to wholesalers who were scaling up, doing significantly less profit than that. We found some very clear patterns. And so what I did is once I analyzed those patterns amongst my own SM3 clients, I then went and seeked out anyone I'd ever consulted with before or any other person who would talk to me in the real estate wholesaling industry. And we were able to compile answers from over 100 different wholesalers, both SM3 clients, consulting clients, and friends and people I know in the space. What was fascinating is there was very clear patterns on how the big wholesalers viewed their business. I'm going to break these down into three buckets: marketing, operations, and mindset. And to be clear, this video is not designed to take a dig at small wholesalers. My goal here is simply to provide value to the marketplace. And if you're a smaller wholesaler, maybe see what you could adjust, which will probably make you more money if you start operating the way the big guys think at play. Bucket one, marketing. The first thing we noticed about our bigger SM3 ad clients was that they contacted us at a significantly lower rate complaining about leads. Of our clients doing over $1 million in profit, less than 14% of them in a trailing 12-month period had made any complaint about lead quality. This was really interesting to me. Did these operators think marketing can be improved? Of course. Did they still ask my company good questions? Yes. Did they want to optimize, and did they change locations here and there? Yes, without a doubt. But the biggest wholesalers were rarely using words like, my marketing is broken, Google Ads does not work, this channel doesn't work, I'm looking at switching, my market doesn't work. Sure enough, those were the common words being used by the smaller wholesalers. So to make sure I didn't have a bias, as soon as I saw this, I went and called everyone I knew in the industry who I didn't run ads for and started asking them about their marketing. Interestingly, the trend was exactly the same. The guys who were printing $1 million plus profit years had zero complaint about their marketing channels. And I wanted to make sure this wasn't just Google Ads thing, so I called the people I knew doing really well in SMS and cold calling. Sure enough, exact same trend. So the first thing I noted here, small wholesalers blame marketing first. Large wholesalers blame operations before marketing. Interestingly, the large wholesalers almost never blamed marketing. When I started asking them what they thought they could improve on around their marketing, they gave me answers like this. Well, we need to look at our sales operation. We've been trying to improve our follow-up and drip sequence process. We're looking at how we manage our leads. They wanted to understand if their offer process was as sound as it could be. They looked at accountability and they looked at their sales operation. And I think this is a really important distinction because when you're small, it's very tempting to believe that your marketing channel is going to be a silver bullet. But when you get bigger, you start realizing that any marketing channel can work as long as you have really dialed in operations. The second trait we diagnosed was that the bigger wholesalers were staying with one marketing channel for years on end without switching. Now again, this is not just biased towards Google Ads. I interviewed people running PPL, direct mail, SMS, cold calling, radio, TV. The ones who were winning at any of those strategies had been doing it for over 18 months minimum. Interestingly, of the wholesalers we found doing over $4 million in total revenue, 84% of the people we interviewed used Google Ads as their largest marketing channel. So here's the point. Cold calling works, direct mail works, SEO works, radio works, TV works, Google Ads works, Facebook works. Everything can work, but you need to stick with it long enough for the data to compound. Now, conversely, the small wholesalers, people doing less than $1 million in total revenue a year, they had switched marketing channels multiple times in the last couple months, let alone the last year. What these small wholesalers did is they tried cold calling, then they went to PPL, then they went to meta leads, then they started Google Ads, then they quit, then they switched agencies in Google Ads, then they started cold calling again. The issue has nothing to do with the channel. The issue has to do with the operator is looking for a silver bullet instead of fixing the business itself. So in summary, we have big wholesalers here and small wholesalers here. Big wholesalers stay with one channel long enough for it to optimize. They focus on improving their sales team operations, and they rarely blame marketing as a reason for them not succeeding. Small wholesalers, they move channels multiple times a year. They change agencies quickly. They blame marketing first for everything wrong in their business, and they restart before their data ever matures. Okay, the next bucket we analyzed, operations. This was probably the most interesting part. The bigger wholesalers seem to place all of their energy and focus around their operations. And at first, some people might think, of course, that's where they spend their time. I want to read to you some of the responses we got from massive wholesalers. I'm talking guys doing $4, $5, $10 million a year in total revenue. What I did is I simply asked them an open-ended question. I said, what do you need to improve on in your business? The big wholesalers instantly gave me answers like, well, we can really tighten up our sales process. We need to improve our operations. Man, I would love to improve my drip sequences. Joe, I don't think we're spending enough time with our offer call. I would like to improve our training schedule. I need to work on our onboarding process. I can dial in my sales team efficiency. Our team needs to convert at higher levels, which was fascinating. Think about it. These are guys doing $500, $600, $700, $1,000 a month in closing. And they are instantly picking out and willing to open up to me saying, well, I need to work on this, this, and this. They understand a key point. Wholesaling is not a real estate business. Wholesaling is a direct-to-consumer sales and marketing operation. Once you understand that, you start putting your emphasis and energy on improving your operation. They understand that we run ads to generate opportunities and we build badass sales teams to accommodate that. I then asked every wholesaler, if you could fix one single thing in your business, what would be that number one thing? Sure enough, the biggest wholesalers, over 70% of them, said they want to improve their sales team operation. This is super important because, again, these are people already doing well. And they're instantly saying things like, our sales team needs to get better. We can drive down our lead to contract. We want to get our cost per contract lower. I know if we do more trainings, we can improve our sales process. I don't think my salespeople are building enough rapport. How do I increase their training on that? Now let's compare that to the responses we got from the small wholesalers when the same question was asked. I then went to the small wholesalers and asked them, out of 10, how would they rank their own sales team? Of wholesalers doing less than $1 million a year in total revenue, 9 out of 10 of the people I interviewed ranked their sales team at an 8.5 or above. Think about how crazy this is. These are tiny operators saying they have an almost perfect sales team. And again, I'm not trying to take a dig at these small wholesalers, but I find it fascinating that the guys making way more money were the first ones to say they needed to improve their sales process. And the small wholesalers were the ones saying they thought their sales process were bulletproof. So in summary, again, we have big wholesalers and small wholesalers. Big wholesalers ask questions like, how do I improve my sales team efficiency? They take responsibility that their sales team is the most important thing in their operation. They understand no matter how much money they're making, they can always improve their profit by improving their sales team structure. Conversely, the small wholesalers think they have a bulletproof sales process. They blame marketing for everything, or they believe that something else outside of their control, which again, this is going to be a big one I'm going to come back to, is the reason for them not succeeding. The next thing we notice about the biggest operators is they obsess over systems and they take full accountability for the machine. I asked a very interesting question to both groups. I said, why do you think sellers back out of your transactions? The big wholesalers all gave me almost the same answer. Well, we probably didn't provide enough value. We probably didn't communicate enough with the seller. We didn't take responsibility of the transaction. We didn't manage the process good enough. Listen, this is an interesting theme. The small wholesalers told me things like, well, these sellers are crazy. These sellers are liars. They didn't tell us the condition. Listen to the different level and accountability between these two groups. Again, not taking a dig. The big wholesalers are saying things like, well, it's our fault. The small wholesalers believe it's the seller's problem. The small wholesalers had significantly worse fallout than the big ones. The biggest wholesalers realized their system and their mindset, which I'm going to get into the next bucket, was the key here. So this takes me to the final bucket, mindset. And you can see where I'm already going with this. Now, this one is a bit more subjective and it was harder to calculate, which was the final piece of my analysis after I'd compiled all these answers into a Google Doc. I took that Google Doc and I dropped it into ChatGPT and I said, please analyze this and summarize the one mindset difference between the big and the small wholesalers. I'm sure if you guys are still with me on this video, you can probably guess what ChatGPT said. It sent me back one single word. That single word was accountability. Biggest wholesalers would all score much higher on an accountability index, meaning they believed all of their problems in their business were their responsibility and their fault. They were not blaming marketing first. They were not blaming sellers for backing out. They weren't blaming their sales team leads. They weren't saying the market was slow. They were asking questions like, how do I get better? How do I improve my sales process? How do I improve training, onboarding, etc.? The bigger wholesalers understood their business was their responsibility and luck was not something that was actually involved in getting rich. On the flip side, the smaller wholesalers blame marketing immediately. They keep switching agencies. They keep switching marketing channels. They believe cold calling is going to save them and then Google's going to save them. They don't understand that they are a product, that their business is actually a reflection of them. A big part of building successful businesses is you growing as the CEO or owner of the business. You have to work on your own personal development. You have to reduce your ego and be willing to learn. You have to take accountability and responsibility for everything going on in your business. And the older I've gotten, and as my income has grown, I have realized that the quicker I can take accountability for everything occurring in my business, even if an employee does something wrong, I take responsibility because I may have not trained them good enough to succeed in whatever I ask them to do. Almost everything comes back to the machine of wholesaling, the marketing machine, sales machine, the follow-up engine. How do we communicate with sellers? How do we prevent sellers from backing out? So here's the big lesson. The biggest wholesalers are not necessarily smarter than the smaller ones. They're not necessarily more talented. They're not in better markets, but they do think differently. They do not blame marketing. They can succeed with any single marketing channel no matter what it is. They stay with a strategy long enough for it to compound. They obsess over their sales process. They obsess over their systems. They take full accountability for everything occurring in their business. If sellers are backing out, they take responsibility for that. They understand that displacing blame is the quickest way to stay broke in this world. And they understand that wholesaling is not about real estate. It's not about marketing. It's about building a badass sales organization with great customer service. It's about building a company, not just being a hustler. Small wholesalers are looking for tips and tricks and hacks. They want something that's going to make their life easy. The big wholesalers understand it takes time to build enterprise value. So here's my final message. If you're a small wholesaler, I really want you to think about this, and I don't want you to take offense to anything I'm saying, because the good news is, I just laid out what the biggest wholesalers are doing. If you're not making the kind of money you want to be making yet, consider looking at your own business and mindset and see where you may be doing what the small wholesalers are doing. Are you blaming marketing? Are you blaming your sales team? Where are you placing blame in your business? Are you taking full accountability for the machine? Because guys, sometimes the thing holding you back in your wholesaling career has nothing to do with skills, and it has everything to do with the way you're viewing your mindset and the way you're viewing your business. And once you make the shift, your income will grow faster than it ever has before. Now, I want to make a quick disclaimer, guys. It is exceptionally hard to build a business that makes $1 million in profit. I don't know the exact statistics, but I think it's somewhere around 1% or 0.1% of any business will ever make over $1 million in net owner profit a year. So this is exceptionally hard. I don't make any income claims on here, and I don't make any guarantees. If you want to be successful, you are going to have to be in the 1% of whoever you're competing with. So guys, if you like learning about real estate wholesale and you like this tactical content, I made a video breaking down how my real estate wholesaling business is going to close over $7 million in total revenue this year. Click here to watch that video. If you want to see every time I post a video, click and subscribe below, please.